Rain poured through the holes in the roof of Charles's old house at the edge of the village. While other families lived comfortably, Charles struggled to survive alone. Every day he worked hard, carrying heavy sacks at the market and helping farmers in the fields. Despite his efforts, the villagers looked down on him because he was poor. The worst were his neighbors, Jumong, Ivan, and Binsoy. "Look at Charles's house," Jumong laughed. "A strong wind could blow it away." Ivan pointed at Charles's torn clothes. "I've seen scarecrows dressed better." Binsoy grinned. "No matter how hard you work, you'll never be anything." The villagers laughed while Charles silently endured the humiliation. That night, sitting alone in his leaking house, Charles stared at the ceiling and wondered if his life would ever change.
Far away in a luxurious office tower, billionaire John Sterling stared at an old photograph of a little boy, his son, Charles. For 15 years, John had searched tirelessly for the child he lost during a tragic accident. Detectives, investigators, and private agencies had failed to find him. Then one morning, a new report arrived. A lawyer rushed into John's office. "We found him." John stood up instantly. "Where is my son?" The lawyer smiled. "In a small village. He's been living there all this time." Tears filled John's eyes. At last, his search was over. The next day, dozens of luxury cars entered the village. Helicopters flew overhead. Bodyguards surrounded the town square. Everyone gathered to watch. Jumong smirked. "Maybe they're finally demolishing Charles's house." Ivan laughed. "About time." Then a lawyer stepped forward. "We are here on behalf of billionaire John Sterling." The crowd gasped. The lawyer pointed directly at Charles. "This young man is Charles Sterling, the long-lost son of John Sterling and sole heir to the Sterling fortune." The entire village froze. Jumong's face turned white. Ivan nearly fell over. Binsoy couldn't speak. The poor boy they had mocked for years was actually the heir to billions. Charles reunited with his father in an emotional meeting that made national news. Over the next few years, Charles learned business from John and became one of the most respected young entrepreneurs in the country. His old house was replaced by a beautiful mansion. His father's empire continued to grow. Meanwhile, Jumong, Ivan, and Binsoy faced disaster. Bad decisions and financial problems ruined their businesses. Their wealth disappeared. Their homes were sold. Eventually, they were left with nothing. The same fate they once wished upon Charles had fallen upon them. Desperate and ashamed, Jumong, Ivan, and Binsoy traveled to Sterling Tower. They were finally brought into Charles's enormous office. The three men immediately fell to their knees. "Charles, we're sorry. We treated you terribly. Please forgive us." Charles looked at them silently. He remembered every insult, every laugh, every humiliation. The room became tense. The men expected revenge. Instead, Charles asked one question. "Do you know what hurt the most?" They shook their heads. "You didn't mock my clothes or my house." Charles's voice grew stronger. "You mocked my dreams." The three men lowered their heads and cried. Charles pressed a button on his desk. Several lawyers entered carrying documents. Jumong looked confused. "What is this?" Charles smiled. 10 years ago, I secretly purchased all your debts." The three men stared in disbelief. Charles continued, "I could have ruined your lives at any moment." Tears rolled down their faces. "But I wanted you to learn what it feels like to lose everything." The lawyers handed each man a folder. Inside were ownership papers for brand new businesses. Jumong, Ivan, and Binsoy were speechless. "Why would you help us?" Binsoy asked. Charles smiled. "Because if I become cruel, like the people who hurt me, then they win." The three men broke down in tears. Years later, the story spread across the country. People expected a story about revenge. Instead, They discovered a story about forgiveness, redemption, and the poor boy who became richer than anyone imagined. And every year, Jumong, Ivan, and Binsoy visited Charles, not as enemies, but as grateful friends who never forgot the lesson that changed their lives forever.